Hello gamers, Pet here. Welcome to Gaming Talk episode number 11. I've been wanting to do this episode for some time, but I didn't have time and I kept postponing it. I kept postponing it, and Hearts of Iron 4 actually came out already. I was kind of preparing to make this video before Hearts of Iron came out. So yeah, in this episode we are actually going to talk about where to get some info about World War II. What could be some good resources that you could read or watch a video or something that you will be able to learn more about World War II, because it will help you a lot if you want to play Hearts of Iron 4. And mainly, in case you don't know what Hearts of Iron 4, well, basically. This is the button. XSplit changed the buttons, and my old keyboards are the same. Anyway, Hearts of Iron 4 is basically a game developed by Paradox Interactive or Paradox Studios, depends. I'm not sure who's the publisher. Yeah, Paradox Development Studios. And it's a grand strategy game where you can actually play with any country in the world in 1936 or 1939. And of course, it's going to be about World War II. Now, why it's important to know history versus other games from Paradox like Crusader Kings 2 or Europa Universalis 4. Now, of course, it's useful to know history on those two games, and in case you want to learn to know how to play Crusader Kings 2 or Europa Universalis 4, I actually made some tutorials, and based on the feedback, people actually kind of managed to learn how to play those two games. So I do recommend you to watch those videos. So anyway, with those two games, Crusader Kings 2 and Europa Universalis 4, you just pick a country, or not really a country, depends on the game, but you pick something and then your own story starts. You just know the basic rules and then you can do whatever. In Hearts of Iron 4, it's very important to actually know history, and more stuff about World War II, because based on your real life knowledge about what actually happened in the World War II, you will be able to change stuff and play your own game. You will be able to create your own scenarios. Because this is a type of game where you don't really have goals. I mean, you pick a country and then you do whatever you want. And it is kind of mind-boggling for some people. And it was for me. I mean, it was like, yeah, okay, but what's the purpose? I mean, what do I have to do? I mean, I kind of need a goal. And in a way, you can maybe try to run for achievements, and maybe that's a scenario, that's a goal. But for example, one scenario that I would like to try is try to play with Romania, and I will want to try to remain independent, maybe like a democracy, which is really, really hard, maybe even impossible, but I will still like to try it. And the reason for that is that versus Romania, Russia and Germany, basically there are two events that are going to happen, and Romania is going to get fucked. Exactly like it happened in World War II. Of course, this is if you are playing Hearts of Iron 4 with the historical, where the AI is going to try to follow the historical path, right? One event is that Russia is going to demand Bessarabia, and if you are not going to give it to them, they will just declare war on you. And Romania in a war with Russia, that's not really good. And then at the same time, Germany is going to moderate, kind of like a talk between Hungarians and Romania, where Romania will have to give out the northern Transylvania. So basically, just by being Romania, you immediately lose territory. And I would like a scenario where I will not gain territory and I will not lose territory. Kind of like play it out easily and see how it is. And in the end, I will still want to be like a whole, right? So that's a scenario. You might also want to try other scenarios, basically, but that's up to you. And if you want to try more other scenarios, it's a good idea to, as I've said, know a little bit about history, right? So, my first, well, I wouldn't say my first contact. I was always kind of, I like history, and I was kind of always reading about history in general, but I actually got these two books. Well, it's actually one book, but it's from 2 volumes. And I'm not really recommending those two because there are better alternatives. But this is basically a book that I actually got in 10 January 2007, and you can actually see it here. I'm actually signing all my books. And I've tried to read this some years ago, and it was very, very hard to read too. I mean, in one page of information, you had a shitload of information about how many troops whoever had, and then how many troops they had in reserves, and then I was kind of feeling like I was in school, right? And then a couple of months ago I emailed Troy, which is, doesn't matter who Troy knows who he is, but he's an internet friend, let's call it like that. I mean, sometimes we exchange emails, and he recommended a really, really, really good book, and basically that book is this one. It's The Second World War by Anthony Beaver, and I've been actually reading this book, and it's really, really amazing. And how to put it? It's pretty hard. I'm reading it on. It's 863 pages. I'm reading it on Kindle. I'm not complaining that it's big. It's actually kind of good because there are really good information. And the way this dude is writing this book, you don't really feel like you are, hey, here, have numbers, have information, try to memorize them or something like that. He's managing to write about what happened kind of in a novel way, like you're reading just a fiction book or a non-fiction book or whatever. The story just flows, and you read it and you see various stuff that happened. It's like you don't feel like, oh my god, so 23 divisions, 10 in the reserves, then it's really good how he's writing it. And not only that, but he actually manages to give various notations. I mean, not notation, I'm not sure what's the word. Quotations, maybe. He's quoting other journals and stuff like that, and it's really giving like a nice insight on how that person who actually lived he lived that moment said, right? Also, it's really nice on how he's basically, I think everybody knows that a lot of bad shit happened in World War II, especially a lot of deaths, right? You read so much and you hear so much about all those deaths that at some point they just become statistics. They are just numbers. 6 million Jews die, and you're like, yeah, okay, that's bad, I guess. I mean, right? But the way he's telling the story and the way he's quoting other people, older journals, you actually, at one point, I actually stopped and thought about it. Man, this was really hardcore. I mean, being a soldier on the Russian front with those, they basically froze to death, a lot of people, and this must be really hardcore. I mean, I remember when I had to sleep, and I was so tired, and I had to sleep, not in my bed because I was, traveling. I was on the train for only 9 hours. And it was horror to travel from Timisoara to Bucharest, 9 hours in a decent train, but still, I mean, I was alone. It was a train. It was and then you read all this stuff where basically you are away from home, miles, kilometers and kilometers away, and it's really making you think. So this book I really recommend it. I'm still, about half through it. Sometimes when I go to sleep, I just read about 5 to 10 pages just for the fun of it. I mean, fun of it. I mean, for the knowledge of it, and it's really good. It's really good. Now, just in case you don't want, actually, let me mention another book. I've been hearing a lot about this book called Panzer Commander: The Memories of Colonel Hans von Luck. And I only read last night about 20 pages, which is mainly the introduction. But from what I've heard, this book's also supposed to be really, really good. Hey, cat. Yes, cat. They have the tendency to always bother me when I'm recording. Yeah. Anyway, this book, I can't really recommend it exactly because I haven't read it, but I heard that it's good. Now, if you don't like to read and you don't have time to read and you want to watch some videos, I do recommend The Apocalypse, The Second World War. If I remember, it was done by National Geographic or something. Well, it wasn't by them, but the torrent versions are basically recordings from the National Geographic. And it's only 6 episodes, so it's not really long. I mean, you are talking about aggression, which is from 33 to 39, which is, it's really important to see the rise of Hitler and how he managed to rise to power, and he's actually really interesting. I really recommend you to cities, because when you hear about war, you only focus about the combat itself, but not about the pre-war. I mean, what happened before the war and what exactly triggered those events, right? Crushing Defeat, which is basically the fall of Dunkirk and the campaign in France and the Battle of Britain. Again, it's really, really fast because there are only 6 episodes, right? 40 and 41, 41 and 42, of course, and yeah, it was a good and easy to watch documentary. So I do recommend to watch this one if you don't have time. I do recommend to watch it anyway, even that the next one is really, really amazing. The World at War. This was made in 73 and 74. It was freaking amazing. I mean, there are 26 episodes, each episode with about 1 hour, almost 1 hour. I mean, in total, the running time is 22 hours. And this was really amazing. And one reason why it was really amazing is because, it was done in 73 and 74. And there are actual interviews with people who still, who were part of the Second World War and they were alive, because it was done in 73 and 74. There is an interview with Hitler's secretary, and she actually saw him. She wrote his testament, basically. There was an interview with Karl Dönitz, or how you pronounce it. He was the admiral of a pretty big admiral in World War II for Germany. And it was really, really useful. And as you can see, a new Germany, again, with the 33 to 39. Distant wars, 39 to 40, which is, if I remember correctly, it was the phony war. That's how they call it, because they weren't really fighting. And it was also, you see the phony war. It was also funny because at the start of the war, there were more casualties because of the blackouts than the war itself, at least for England, right? And when I mean blackouts, they were kind of paranoid of them, of the UK being bombed, so they basically created blackouts, no lights, no nothing, right? So there were casualties because the cars kept running over people because they were not using lights and so on. Anyway, France Falls, Alone, Barbarossa, Banzai. It's also really interesting because you see this part every time it's about World War II. You always D-Day, 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 USA, USA, D-Day, D-Day, and this whole thing, and you kind of you don't really see the Pacific and all those fights, and it was really nice. Interesting to see. Stalingrad, also the desert of North Africa, bombing Germany, throughout Italy, It's a Lovely Day Tomorrow, Burma. Remember those episodes. And as I've said, the genocide, they also tackle a little bit of, those, not combat itself, but the whole, and also this last episode called Remember. The same thing with this book. Right now, I'm kind of in the middle of the book, and he's starting to tackle some stuff about encryption, some stuff about spies, and how some partisans managed to sabotage the railway, which was basically connecting Italy to the northern Africa, and because they managed to blow up the bridge, the supply line was out for like 4 months, which was interesting to read because, as I've said, at least for me, I'm interested in watching those stuff. So after at least you watch the videos, because the books take more time, it's going to be, you are going to have a better idea about the overall of Hearts of the World War II, and this will actually help you play Hearts of Iron 4 better, because you know what you can change and you know how it was, and you maybe want to try something else. Like, for example, you can actually play with any country, but you might want to try USA and make them fascists or communists and see what it happens, and try to make your own scenario to play your own games, And I've actually played Hearts of Iron for 45, almost 46 hours. I enjoy it a lot. I do plan on making a video about the game soon, maybe a tutorial, but it was pretty easy to pick up, so don't be afraid. It's much easier to pick up, but not much simpler. There is some deepness there. So you can actually try to play this game out. So, hopefully this video was useful. I do recommend, as I've said again, try to watch the World War II documentary. At least if you don't have time, try to watch Apocalypse, the Second World War. This book was amazing, and right now I'm reading a little bit of Panzer Commander by Hans von Luck. I think that's how you pronounce it. I'm not sure. So anyway, thank you guys for watching this. If you have other suggestions on what to watch, write in the comments below. There is a YouTube channel that I've been watching a little bit lately, but I forgot the name. So anyway, thank you guys for watching. See you soon. Goodbye.